And this knowledge feels like truth because it feels amazing. And then you even have the dialogue at some point with yourself. Even if this somehow is not true, I don't care. It feels so good that even if I'm completely delusional, I'll have it. Because I'd rather live, if it really is just 80 years here, I'd rather live 80 years delusional in this feeling state than 80 years observing the truth and then dying. Miserable. So it doesn't even matter, really. You have to let go of the physical world view and see that since it is so dead and lifeless, perhaps it's not true. How can truth feel bad? How can truth feel miserable? Such as lack exists. Oh my God, it feels so bad. But it's true. If I move an apple from location A to location B, it no longer exists in location A. And a child in Africa is suffering because I stole its fucking apple. It feels so bad. It must be true.
And so it's frowned upon, usually, to talk about these taboos of suffering or being raped or war zones or whatever, and treat it somewhat lightly, or treat it as it is a story that can just be transcended. People get really upset about this, and they associate that with meaning that there's a lack of love and wisdom and maturity in you. So just giving you a heads up, don't let that sway you from knowing the truth of your love and your wisdom. Know, like feel in your heart the love and the wisdom, and let other people think what they may think. Just love them too, because they are wherever they are at, and they're just not all as smart as some of you are. It's just that, people are very conditioned. When you're very conditioned, you're just very, very stupid. There's not a lot of light that shines through. And even like leaving every time I leave Boulder, I'm more and more shocked. I'm more and more shocked. It literally feels like I'm walking around a planet of apes. Like, if even that level. Like, I think when we are thinking of unconditional love, as in protecting us from having our free will being infringed upon, I think we have a bit of a romantic story about that in terms of what that looks like. Like, you're always physically comfortable and you're always by a fireplace and there's always someone bringing you a towel. I'm exaggerating, but the free will is what keeps you safe. Like, it's always up to you ultimately, but that can look like being murdered, can look like being raped, can look like being tortured, can look like all these things.
Right.
So it's unconditional love that is unconditional in its nature, meaning that if there is an agreement to play out a certain scenario, then it won't keep you by the fireplace, it will have you raped, for example. Mm-hmm. That is unconditional love, and that is unconditional freedom still. So your free will is not being infringed upon ultimately. It is just that you're playing out different perspectives from different limited points of view, and from certain points of view it may seem like there's no free will whatsoever, and you might be, for whatever reason, choosing to be part of that experience, part of that co-creation. So you are protected, but you're protected by your free will, and unconditional love is a reflection, is an aspect of free will. It's created out of free will, so to speak. It's the first, free will is the first distortion. So that's what keeps you safe. It is free will, it is your own free will. Nothing can ever happen against your free will.
Okay, that's what I was feeling, and I wasn't sure if I was hearing something else.
Well, the thing is, there still is the illusion of different levels of free will. And so when a higher level of free will infringes deliberately upon the lower level of free will, that still counts towards something. Meaning there is a certain imbalance that's accumulated, energetically speaking, that will have to be restored at some point in some way. Okay. So that doesn't mean that ultimately when you infringe upon, let's say, a 5-year-old's child's free will, that doesn't mean that ultimately that they and their higher self did not understand that there was a high probability that that could or would occur, and that they are therefore not agreeing to have that experience. They are. You have to be willing to not look at the evil in order to transcend the evil and bring about goodness. You cannot hold evil and badness and wrongness in your mind's eye and at the same time vibrate with complete love, compassion, and solutions.
Yeah.
Solutions will not come to you as long as you reference what is as bad. So this is where the humility comes in. This is where the paradox comes in. In the midst of you seeing an example of a 12-year-old child sharing how she's raped, for you to be able to find that balance of, sure, recognizing what their experience is, but simultaneously holding a greater space within which you see, from which you see, more accurately, from which you can see and feel, that somehow there has been choice behind that from a higher point of view. There is purpose behind that, and they are of service to the world and to themselves and to their overall soul evolution, the service of which is way more valuable to its soul than the physical inconvenience that it went through. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to adopt a point of view that's not purely human.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Oh, definitely.
And this is very hard for people.
I've done it in other contexts, and this is like bigger for me. It's like
Yes.
another order of magnitude.
Yes,
I work in healing collective trauma. That's my field of work, so I've been doing
Beautiful,
this.
thank you.
Yeah. So this for me somehow it's like an order of magnitude.
I understand, yeah. So you will be challenged, obviously. But what will come up for you is only your own points of view.
Yeah.
You can never actually experience the circumstance behind your point of view. So all that you'll experience about that, rage and all that is your points of view showing up and your emotional guidance system letting you know whether or not that point of view is in alignment. And when you stumble upon a point of view that feels good about someone else being raped, are you willing to accept that point of view? That's the paradox of humility.
Yeah.
Arrogance would be, no,
No,
I'm a
this is
good
right.
person. This is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm a good person. I don't want you to be raped. That's bad. I'm going to kill your rapist. That is the
Yeah.
arrogance. That's not the good person.
Yeah.
That's not the innocence. The innocence is find a point of view that feels best. So the emotional guidance system, listen to your higher self. It's communicating through your emotions. When it feels good, doesn't mean you're completely blind to their suffering or that you don't acknowledge their experience. But it does mean that you're coming from a holistic space that sees the greater purpose behind that experience and then can also simultaneously hold their suffering in that without
Yes.
getting distracted by it and actually still have access to solutions, wisdom, love, compassion, and you can radiate a field of healing when you come from that space,
Yes.
which you cannot radiate, possibly, if you're coming from this is wrong.
Yes.
If you come from this is wrong, what you're doing is you're taking that already semi-imprinted impression in their brain, in their consciousness, and you're fucking anchoring it in.
Exactly.
You're saying you're fucking wronged. You're a victim of this world. You have no power whatsoever. This was against your choice. You can never heal. This is terrible. That's what you're doing when you're trying to be a good person.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like activism in general.
When it's out everywhere,
Yes.
melted,
Yes.
could it manifest in France
Yes.
2 days ago and reverse the difficulty there?
Reverse the difficulty?
I mean, or the presumed illusion of people actually getting shot and,
Oh, well, there's parallel infinite realities. From its own point of view, it doesn't have to ever go back and change something because the reality where nobody was shot already exists. So it can simply experience that reality parallel to the one where everyone is shot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
Cool. So then, the idea of going back to change the reality, again, is similar to like trying to fix a trauma. The trauma is meant to be the trauma on its own level. That's one way in which infinity can express itself. So why would you meddle with that? Why would you say this portion of expressing infinity should not be here? Why would you make infinity's expression of itself less complete? Why take away the shootings? Shootings are fun.
It seems
There's parallel realities.
it seems uncomfortable. Let's put it that way.
To what? To your ideas.
To the person that's getting shot.
To the
You know,
person that's
I mean,
getting shot.
But maybe they're in the wrong frame of mind to be shot, and they could just be, okay, I'm going to be shot.
Or
Might
they
not be shot.
or they might wish to experience that experience. That's why they're experiencing it. On some level, they might wish to experience that because it's a valuable learning experience. Does that make sense?
For their next life.
For their next, no, not necessarily, just for consciousness. Consciousness doesn't necessarily think so much in next lives. We do that from a linear point of view. But it learns immediately as soon as it dies. You learn right now. You learn, you're adding to your consciousness, to your soul's conscious awareness of itself and to its expression of itself with every single experience you have. Now, the more consciously you approach your everyday life and you use the catalysts, the challenges that happen, that you create for yourself, the more you learn, the faster you move, the more you condense the idea of time, the more non-physical you become, in a sense, in your energy, in your state of being, in your consciousness. The more flexible, the more steam-like you become, and you become less like eyes, less blindfolded, more wide open, wide awake, seeing multiple things simultaneously, like consciousness does. Consciousness sees all things simultaneously.
But you're still manifest.
Who? Be as specific as you can be.
You, me.
Yes. So, what does that mean or prove for you? Or how does that lead into a
Because
question?
earlier when you were explaining that the is manifest itself for whatever purpose.
Can you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
The is manifest itself for whatever purpose.
Yes.
So it doesn't need to exist, it just does it for fun. So it just does.
Well, it always exists.
I mean,
it doesn't need to exist
okay,
physically.
Okay, Bentinho, what's fun? What's fun?
Yes.
What's fun?
To die,
the
to be
is.
shot, is fun.
Okay.
If I heard the news that a comet is approaching Earth tomorrow, and it would wipe out all human life, I'd be absolutely fucking ecstatic. That'd be a brilliant idea. Know that you feel good right now. You feel really, really good right now. Know this. Know this beyond doubt. You feel really, really good right now. And humanity has awakened. You are living in the world you desire to live in. You did it. You actually did it. We did it. It's actually there. Kids are running around free. Everyone's their parent now. Spaceships are docking in and out of Station Earth. And all these ET beings are enjoying interacting with us, and we with them. It's transfer of knowledge, information. And every once in a while you feel like leaving Earth, going out into outer space. And there's epic technology that can pop out of space-time and reinsert at a different space-time. Every idea that's dropped into the collective is received and executed. We are being of benefit to hundreds of worlds. Our own connection is solid. You trust your kids with any stranger in any part of this planet, and you know he will get or she will get the proper education and guidance where necessary. So kids stay with their parents maybe until the age of 3, 4, 5, and they just start wandering off, start exploring, and there's not a single doubt in your mind that that's totally safe and okay. Can you imagine that? Imagine that. That's what's happening. That's what's the case. You have such unshakable trust and union and non-separation with your fellow human beings that you don't care where your 4-year-old wanders off to. He can go to China for all you care. You don't give a shit because you trust every single entity within this civilization.